What's up, guys? It's your boy Justin. Sorry we haven't been doing Batman month reviews lately, but today we're reviewing Batman Wildcat crossover, which this collection came out in 2017 and collects 12 issues, which comes with 2 crossovers and 8 Brave and the Bold comics from 1975, right? So, like, the first 2 crossovers is between Batman and Wildcat and Catwoman. This is mostly, this book is mostly for people who are a fan of Wildcat, the JSA'er, which, here's my Wildcat HeroClix. And here's my unpainted Wildcat HeroClix that I got for some reason. So yeah, the first 2 crossovers have pretty much the same team. Chuck Dixon and what was his name? Beau Smith, right? With Sergio Cariello as the penciler. And this was a pretty cool story. It starts off with this battle to the death between Killer Croc and Wildcat. Turns out it's not Wildcat. And this is being recorded and filmed live to audience of the super elite, right? And here you see Killer Croc kill Wildcat, but it turns out it's not actually Wildcat, it's Wildcat's apprentice, which Wildcat, Ted Grant here, found out through this guy named, it's been a couple days since I read this, Flea. So Wildcat is out for revenge on the Killer Croc and the people who killed his apprentice, right? And while this is going on, Bruce Wayne finds out about this through his golf buddy, who wants to show him the tape, but like, you know, Bruce Wayne is, hey, stay where I can see you. I have my dog here. Yeah, Bruce Wayne is disgusted by it, which Bruce Wayne, being a detective, probably should have watched the tape to find out clues, right? But yeah, here, you know, Commissioner Gordon shows him the Wildcat's corpse, and at first, you know, they think it's actually Wildcat, even though it's an old costume. So they should have known, seen the old costume, that it's not actually Ted Grant, but it, you know, yeah. So yeah, this was a pretty cool story. You have Batman's out to investigate, you know, this deathmatch, underground fighting, while Ted Grant is also after them because, you know, they killed his buddy, right? And they kind of smudged his reputation, right? Yeah, so this was cool. I think this was the first appearance of the new costume, actually. I could be wrong, right? Oh, you have Matches Malone here. Yeah. I'm not a huge fan of Matches Malone, right? Yeah, it turns out that the death match is run between this ex-boxer and this guy named Lockup. Sorry, my dog was whining. This guy named Lockup, who they have this like private prison, and that's being funded thanks to this guy's like underground fight ring. So I really liked the story. The art was good. The action was pretty great. You know, you get to see like different death battles. Here you got like KG Beast in his Deadpool looking costume versus some guy who's like hooked on Venom, right? So here you see like Wildcat interrogate this guy by tying him to the front of his motorcycle and riding it. Oh man, yeah. So obviously at some point they have and here it's pretty bloody, right? At some point, obviously, they have Wildcat and Batman fight together. And this is like an homage to an old Brave the Bold, where Batman and Wildcat are forced to fight by the Joker, which is in this book, right? Really cool cover. Yeah. So yeah, I have like multiple stories to go through, so we're just gonna skip this. So here we have the Wildcat and Catwoman crossover by the same team, and this is part 1 of 4. This was pretty cool because you had like Ted Grant's in Vegas, right? And Catwoman's there for a job, right? Working security, right? Where she's testing the security of this Vegas casino, not knowing that she's being set up by the mob bosses of that casino to where they're gonna rob themselves and put the blame on her, right? And Ted Grant is there because one of his fighters is there to fight, and that his fighter actually wins, and it screws up. By the way, Catwoman looks sexy as hell in this story, right? Oh yeah, one of the mobster's brothers, who's like a goon for his mobster brother, is Clawhammer, who's like you know, a goon, but he has like a fascination with superheroes and villains, right? And a fascination for power tools, right? So I really like this story because you have this like you have this cool story where like, you know, you have Catwoman, Catwoman and Wildcat team up, right? And you have the third party with the mobsters that, you know, that do a heist, and they end up pissing off their psycho older brother who wanted the money for himself, right? They actually rip off their older brother, who's like a psycho, who hires this mercenary to go after Clawhammer's crew and Catwoman and Wildcat. And here you kind of see the psycho brother, and he hired this guy, Red Blade, right? So I really liked this story. It was funny. There's lots of action. Catwoman's very sexy in this book, right? And it gets pretty brutal. Some of the fights, right? You have Red Blade torch everybody, and there's a point in the book where like Wildcat and the mobsters get kidnapped by Red Blade and his boss, right? And Catwoman has to go rescue them, which Catwoman has this alternate costume, which is pretty cool, right? And here you see like Wildcat and the mobsters are going to get tortured by the older brother and Red Blade, and it gets pretty gruesome, man. They cut off Clawhammer's hands with a chainsaw that's heated up, and it's like, oh, that's why Red Blade is called Red Blade. Oh man. Obviously Catwoman rescues him, right? And then they go on a date. Okay, next so that was a very good story as well. Next we have the Brave and the Bold comics, right? I'm just going to go through them really quickly. Which, if people don't know what Brave and the Bold was, Brave and the Bold was a DC comic book with Batman in every issue would team up with another superhero from the DC universe, right? So here it's like Batman is working for the CIA against the Russians. He's fighting the Cold War, and he's going to this Kid Olympics where he's running the U.S. fencing team, and he hires Ted Grant to run the kids' boxing team, right? And like Ted Grant keeps getting like instigated into fights by the Russian boxer, right? And while this is going on, Batman has to find this spy who's the spy that double-crossed the Westerners and wants to sell the coded formula to to the... No, it's like plans for a space station or something, right? So yeah, this was a pretty cool book, right? You had, like, that's the funny thing about these, like, 70s comics is you have Batman using, like, 70s slang, and it's so weird, because you hear him say, um, far out, and, like, shit, like, stuff like that, right? This one was weird. By the way, it tells you there's supposed to be an origin story for Deadman. There is no origin story for Deadman. So that kind of annoyed me. But yeah, here, in this one, Batman is in Mexico. He's hired by the Mexican government to find out who take out this, like, cartel boss who's stealing, like, well, it's not cartel boss, but like this Mexican gang leader who's, like, stealing all the like Mexican, like, historical artifacts and selling them overseas, right? Like, and he sees this kid diving, and somebody's trying to kill him. So as Batman, he tries to save him, and it turns out the kid is like apprentice for El Tigre, who's actually Wildcat, who lost his memory. Apparently, the kid is the son of a friend of Wildcat, right? And Wildcat went to Mexico to help his boxing friend find this, like, lost treasure, right? Before the gang gets it, but he was killed, right? Hey dog. I'm not gonna say my dog's. I'm not gonna dox my dog. So I don't know. This was a cool comic because you have, like, Batman, Wildcat, who lost his memory, go on this, like, treasure hunt, right? And this guy joins the group who's a friend of of Lewis, right? And he was a friend of Lewis's father. Spoiler alert, turns out he was the guy who tried to kill his dad. So I thought this was a cool adventure story, right? Okay, this one, another Batman Wildcat. Here's the treasure, by the way. Batman Wildcat story where Batman and this one takes place in America, and it's about corporate espionage, right? Which was very different than the other spy books where it was about, like, the Cold War, right? So this was a cool story. But, like, one weird thing that happened is, like Wildcat was almost shot, like, almost killed by these by the corporate, like, bosses, right? And he's left for dead, and this Jaguar is about to kill him, right? And then he gets saved by this old hunter, right? And you're like, oh, are we gonna find out who that old hunter is? No, no, like, he's gone in the next panel. So that was very random, right? But this was a decent story. Next, I think this is the last one. This is like the second to last one. This one is about Joker has here's the story where Joker makes, like, Wildcat and Batman fight with spiked gloves, right? And this story was like Joker. This story was very convoluted because it was like Batman is trying to get this henchman of Joker to rat on Joker, right? And he puts him in solitary, and Joker makes this virus and is able to infect him, right, with this virus, while, like, while, like, Ted Grant was supposed to box this goon at the prison, right, and he gets infected by the virus, right, and all the prisoners get infected by the virus, right, and Batman and Wildcat have to escort to this dog named Spot, who has the antibodies to the virus, to the prison. But the Spot gets captured by the Joker, right? And the dog runs away, right? And then they have this like goose chase where they have to find the dog, right? Which eventually ends up with the Joker getting the dog and forcing Batman and Wildcat to fight. Here you have the gun at the dog's head. So I thought this was a fun issue, but I was a little worried for the dog because it's like they were like, oh, they were gonna use the dog's blood to inoculate all 600 prisoners, right? So it was like I was worried. Hey, come back here. Hello. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Yeah. Hey, pa, who told you could leave? Dumb dog. Right. Whatever. So like they saved the dog, right? So like the final story is like a ghost story, where this story was a little bit liberal, right? Because it's like a guy who's smuggling foreigners into the America. A bunch of his refugees. Sorry, a bunch of the refugees die, and Batman is sworn to get him, right? And it turns out there's this island called the Dead Man Quadrangle, where like a bunch of ships and planes go down on these islands, right? It's kind of like the Bermuda Triangle, right? But they made it like 4 islands instead of 3, and that's where the guy is, right? The bad guy, which turns out to be the author of the book of Dead Man's Quadrangle. So Batman 10 Grant go after him, right? Here you see Batman have a knife fight underwater against a shark and win, which was pretty cool, right? Yeah, but this was a cool, fun story, right? Also, there's Wildcat has a fight against a guy named Iron Fist. What was it called? In the Grip of Iron Fist. So here you see Wildcat fight Iron Fist. Yeah, so that's the end of the book. So what I think about this book, I would say it's worth, the book is like $40, right? It's worth it just for the 2 Chuck Dixon stories, but if you like Silver Age Batman comics and like Brave and the Bold, it's totally worth it, man. Like, I'm giving this a 7 out of 10. Alright, that's it for this video, guys, and our next Batman month review is going to be, you know what, screw it, we're going to review Batman vs. Deathstroke.